Hello, this is Dan in Tuntatuliak, Alaska. Looks like it's just starting to rain right now. Looking out into the yard, school. We're pretty close, 30 feet or so. This is chapter 5. I have a lot to go over, so I'm going to be quick. This is, I don't know how well these show up in pencil. I've worked really hard this week to get them all done. This is problem number 1, dimes and quarters. And I ended up, I hope it's not blurry on anything. I ended up with losing my place right now because I was pointing to number 3. So it looks like we were going to have 33 dimes, 13 quarters, and dimes and quarters. That's the answer. Number 2. I have a final answer. Price of gloves before markdown, and the markdown was before the markdown was. After the markdown was 24.01, and then we had to work on the backwards on the percentage increase, and the final is the actual price before was 34.10 with the discounted price. Number 3 is the basketball, and the basketball one was, I believe it was the price of the basketball without separately from the tax. And down here I got the basketball without a tax is $14.41, and the tax was $1.13. Number 4 over here was talking about, and again it took me all week, so I probably forgot some of the question, and I could look back over here. Number 4 says finance mortgage payment for a home at $900 a month, and they're talking about refinancing, but it was going to cost them an additional amount to refinance actual price. And I think it was Josie and me on the phone came up with the same amount of 36 months or 3 years, and then that's when Josie and I got booted or something like that. And anyway, it didn't go well the rest of that time. Ended up venting. Okay, and this one was bargain booklets, number 5. And this was talking about a transit system. And there's the regular price up here for $10 plus 25 cents a ride, and the casual rider for $4. In these booklets, you get so many free tickets for their price. And I worked it out that the price plus the rides ended up being, I think her name was Magoli or something like that, and this was Dory, and they at 24 rides they ended up paying the same amount. But of course Magnoli was going for the bigger booklet. Number 6 said, talking about Javier received a letter from the bank, and he currently pays $1.60 fee and 15 cents a check. And the new process was going to be 12 cents a check and $2.75. So he's getting looks like he's getting a discount. And so the question was, what's the minimum number of checks Javier must write monthly so that his new plan will cost him less? And I ended up with 38 checks a month, which is quite a few. Number 7, these are right out of the book. Number 7 was talking about baseball cards with Giancarlo, and he had 2 more, that's plus 2 up here, 2 more than 3 times what Antonio had. And so how many cards does Jim, okay, and then it said if Giancarlo gave Antonio 12 of his cards, they would have each then the same number of cards. How many cards does Giancarlo have? And so I worked on that, and I figured that if he had 35 cards, the other Antonio has 11. Number 8 talks about change, and it says Plato has 58 coins in nickels, dimes, and quarters. The number of nickels is 3 less than twice the number of dimes. The total value of all the coins is 740. How many of each type of coin does Plato have? And as you can look across here, this was all of that problem. And I ended up with 17 quarters, 22 dimes, and 19 nickels. Okay, so there had to be 58 in all. 9 and 9 is 18, carry the 1. 3 and 2 is 5, that's 58 coins, and they had to equal 740. I think that was this is number 9 now, undergrads. And this one was kind of puzzling, and so it was, there was 9 men for every 10 women and at this university, and there was 26,239 students at the university. How many women were there? Okay, there was 9 men for every 10 women. So I went in and I thought, well, that's like a percentage thing. So I took the difference there, and there's like 10% difference from 90 to 100, or 9 over 10. And so up here I took half of that. Well, first I divided it by 2, and I got a number. And then half of everybody were these two amounts here. So and of course I rounded them. I rounded them up right here. So I rounded 5% down, then I rounded 5% up, and I come up with these two numbers here. I totaled them out, and I got the correct number. Okay, and number 10 talks about, it's a tough one, Ronnie's apartment number plus the square of Harry's apartment number equal 2,240. Happens to be the dorm number of Harry's girlfriend. Harry's apartment plus the square root of Ronnie's apartment equals 1,008, which happens to be the dorm room number of Ronnie's boyfriend. What are the apartment numbers of Ronnie and Harry? So I worked it out, all this, and I ended up with Harry was room 47 squared, and that equaled the girlfriend's. And then Ronnie, 31, that was Ronnie's room. Ronnie's room squared was 31 squared, and that left Harry's room as 47, and there's the 1,008. I don't know where 10 is right off. Oh yeah, 10. That was 10. Okay. Number 11 is going home from college, and it talks about Gabby headed home for Thanksgiving. He rode his bike at 18 miles an hour to a town where his two sisters lived. They all got in the car and they drove their parents home. On the car trip, the siblings averaged 60 miles an hour. Total distance was 435 miles, and Gabby traveled for 9 hours. How far is it from Gabby's house to his sister? So this isn't just a total thing. This is just from his college resident to his sister's house. So I figured the whole total and divided it backwards, and the answers is, I think this is the one, 36 miles or 2 hours. Okay, number 12. This was Nina, and she had a horse, and they went for a ride. Number 12. That they went for a ride in the hill. Dakota, the horse, stumbled, and Nina left Dakota and walked back home to her vet. Nina figures the Dakota walked about twice as fast as she does, and if Dakota was hurt about 8 miles into her ride, and the whole ride took 4 hours, how fast did Nina walk? Well, she walked 2 miles an hour to get to the vet, and walked the 8 miles in 4 hours, and ended up in town 4 hours later. Number 13 was a little difficult. They had 2 players. One's super hot, best player in the whole world probably, and that would be, let's see who we have there. Let's see, we have Mia, star of the United States team, just received the ball. She's about 60 yards from Brazil's guard. and Brazilian star Sissy is the closest opponent. And Sissy's about 10 yards behind. And so we raced towards the goal in seconds. One of them runs at 8.4 yards a second. The other one runs at 6.8 yards a second. Okay, and the slower one was because she had the ball. So the real race would be take the ball away and how fast did they run. Well, I ended up with about 2.4 yards. Ooh, that doesn't sound right. Maybe that's 2.4 yards would be 12 and a half feet. Mia's going to kick because Sissy is caught up to her right about then. So I don't know where the 46 came, but that's where I'm going to stand for now. Let's see, we did the undergrads. That leaves us at number 14, the telephone solicitor. Okay, and it says that Kiko is a telephone solicitor. She's been able to convince only 18% of the people she called to donate. If she gets 12 of the next 30, she'll barely break 25% for the day. How many calls has she made so far? This whole page, and it says she called about 170 people. Figuring that 12 out of 8 people equals the 25% minus the 18% leaves 7%. So then we went back over here and figured it up. And we got down to really close at 98%. That equaled 168 people. So 100% would be about 170 people. Okay. Number 15 was talking about boxes, and they were working in the same factory. And number 18, no, this is number 15. Sorry, box manufacturing company, and so they thought, well, there's 2 employees, and they thought, well, we can increase the size of the box now. How are we going to do it? And one said, well, let's take the 20s, keep the base, and just go the height. So this is 12 by 27 by 27. So he wants to keep the base, the same base. So that's this calculation. The other person said, I want to change the base but keep the height. So the height was always 12 inches tall. The box was always 12 inches tall, and they just changed the box. And I started out by just, what about if it was 2 by 2 by 2, etc. So this is the calculation for all the boxes of different widths, and I got pretty close on a couple of them. It was hard to tell. I came back over here and worked this one out 100%, and then I started working, well, it's going to have to be a ½ inch, and this is what I ended up with. The answer is 19,683 would be 40 by 40 by 12, 40 by 40 0.5 times 2, because it's a box. So this is the top and the bottom and the sides. Here's the side would be 40.5, the length would be 40.5, and it would still be 12 inches high. This guy, this guy had a 27 by 27 by 27. So this is the answer that came out of this side over here. Different. The base was the same. Okay, same base, different height. So he ended up going clear up to 27 inches tall. 27 by 27 by 27. And it ended up being the same number, 19,683. Number 16. Number 16 talks about free throws. And it says that Audrey's free throw percentage so far is .875. If she makes 13 of her next 20, her percentage will drop to .860. How many free throws has Audrey made this season? And so I worked it out. And I think I came up with that Audrey has thrown 258 out of the 300. So I ended up using 6 multiples of 43 to get the 258. Number 17 was a cell phone. And it says that there was a cell phone plan. Okay, and there was two companies. One was Marathon Network, MN, and the other one was Tuscan Communication, TC. And first I started out, wow, they're going to use a lot, and I started working it out way too high, because when I ended up, I had to go back down to day one. The price for one is $81.99. The price for the second one, same day, is $61.49. And right after day one, the increase was so great that it was just ridiculously high prices. And that leads us to number 18. Number 18 was Create a Problem, and I sent that in today. And I used Bill, Susie, and Tommy. They have 10 days left of school, and these are the percentiles that they have right now in class: 85, a B, 85, and 1A. And then I thought, well, surely Billy's going to want to know if he can get an A, because it's his one class. If he can get an A in this class, math class, he's going to get an A, and he's going to be on the honor roll. Same with Susie. They're that close. So I even gave you the next week, the next 5 days. And I said, so if they got 88, 85, 88, and 100, how close are they? Okay, and I worked out the points. To get an A, you'd have to have those 5 days at 90% or higher to get to 450. And I gave them the best chance possible. I said, if I gave them 100% for the next 5 after this one, because as you can see, they caught on to the concept. They all got 100 that day. I was never worried about Tommy. And this calculated out, he got an A this week also, so he'll be getting an A next week. So if they both get the next 5 assignments at 100%, they still will not get a 90% at the final grade. So that was, I guess, left for somebody else to figure out. Classing problem number 5 was the Newsboys, and this was the Smith boys versus the Jones boys, the Smith and the Jones. And it said that, let me look it up here. There were 5 boys, brothers of each family. 3 of one was the Jones, because little Jimmy there. And Tom and Ned were the Smith boys. And it said, out of all the newspapers, let her fly, how many at 25%? Tommy did 25% of all the newspapers, and Billy did 25% of what was left, and then Ned did 25% of what was left, and Charlie did 25% of what was left, and Jimmy got the remainder. So I wasn't worried about Jimmy. And so as I calculated them down throughout this paper, I started out with 500, and that didn't come out to be close enough. So I ended up with about 1,000. Then I went a little more. 1,004 was a number that would probably be a better percentile down there at the numbers. So I calculated 104, and I found out that it worked out just fine. And that, but it left. So the question was, this was a point at which the Smith brothers had sold more papers than the 2 Jones brothers. And then after this, always, if you threw in Jimmy's, little Jimmy's amount, he would put it way over the top. So it was at a point in time without. Okay. So this was the last one. And once again, I did an alternate over here. I did 1,005. And that also worked fine. And it also gave little Jimmy plenty of papers at the end to carry, more than any one person up here. So that's the assignment this week. Have a nice one.